Panelist. So I am going to start off by introducing myself, and then I will give an overview of Global Health Core and our fellowship program, and give some context on our new model or expanded model, our Africa Fellowship. I'll invite our three panelists to introduce themselves, and we will launch into the session. All right, so to start, my name is Ruth Achillah. I am the Director of Fellowships for Global Health Core. So if you are joining the fellowship, if you're successful, then you shall see a lot of me, you shall hear from me quite a bit, as our panelists can attest. I am responsible for the fellowship program, and that means a lot of communications with our new applicants similar to this, right from the beginning as we start recruitment, managing the selection process. So I'm responsible to make sure that every step of the selection process is run with integrity, that we are engaging our community and making sure that it's a comprehensive process as our fellows get selected, coordinating with your placement organizations to make sure that the roles make sense, you're well situated, your benefits are provided for. And then once you join the fellowship program, I am responsible for the curriculum, the leadership curriculum that you will experience throughout the fellowship as well. So that is what I do. And I'm happy to answer more questions towards the end. I see some questions in the chat. If you are going to be sending questions in the chat, please make sure that everybody can see them so that the questions are not repeated. And if you are unable or having any difficulty, we have Mwape. Mwape, could you turn on your video, please, so that our applicants can see you? We have Mwape, who is responsible for our tech support. So if you have a question, a concern, a challenge with the Zoom, you can just text her or send her a message in the chat, a direct message. If there are any messages for me or for the panelists, please make sure that everybody can see them. So just send to everybody as opposed to just me. Please turn off your video if you're not speaking. We just want to make sure that everybody is able to see who the panelists are. So if you're not speaking, please turn off your video. If you are, you can turn it on so that we are able to see you as you speak. All right. All right, so I will give you just an overview of Global Health Core. I know that if you are a prospective applicant and you are in this place, you've likely scoured our website, so I'm not going to go too much into information that you can find there, but I will give you a sense of our why and where we are up to this point. So Global Health Core is a leadership accelerator. We refer to ourselves as a catalyst for growth in the leadership space in health. And we are focused primarily on non-traditional participants in the health space. Oh, can you hear me now? I know that some people said that they couldn't hear. Okay, great. So we focus on non-traditional players in the health space. A lot of the times when we talk about health, we are so oriented to think about doctors and nurses and other frontline staff. But now with Global Health Core and the fellowship program that we run, we are trying to encourage and trying to really shine a spotlight on everybody else who works in the context of health, who may not necessarily be a frontline practitioner, but who moves the needle forward in terms of health equity and our ability to have the kind of health systems that we aspire to have. When you think about the development goals, or even specific to different organizations, what those practices are, a lot of the times, in as much as our doctors, our nurses, our clinical officers, etc., might be the implementers, you need the collective to make sure that the system works right. So by the collective would have somebody who works in business, someone who works in supply chain, someone who works in HR, understanding that same vision and ensuring that every step of the process is not just reliant on the frontline staff, but is excellent and is collaborative across the board. So that is what our focus is, and that's the practice of our organization. And we have, at this point, I think over 1,150 alums who are engaged, who are in positions of amazing leadership, some of whom are here with us today, our panelists. So if you want to see what success looks like, this is a little bit of it. You'll hear their voices soon. You'll hear their voices soon, and you will be able to get a better sense of what the process is and what the experience is as an applicant. In terms of our questions, if you would like to ask a question, we will have a Q&A section at the end. However, if you have a question, you think you're going to forget it, or you think it's very context specific to somebody who is speaking, please type in the chat. We will not allow you to unmute yourselves or interrupt the flow of conversation until Q&A. So like I said, if you have a question that's related to somebody who is speaking, just type it in the chat. We'll be able to see it, and the person can respond if they're able to see it in real time, or we'll respond to all of the questions at the very end. Please keep your videos off unless you're speaking. We don't know each other just yet, so we want to make sure that everybody can see who the panelists are and have that focal point be the panelists. So stay on mute, stay off video, and if you want to participate in the Q&A session at the end, you can turn on your video and speak, or you can type in the chat to make sure that your question gets seen. All right, so I spoke a little bit about our organization and what we do. A lot of what we have done in the past has been having our national fellows be from sub-Saharan Africa or our African context where we operate. So our current placement countries are Malawi, Rwanda, Uganda, and Zambia. This is where we have offices and a physical footprint in Africa. So what we have been doing in the past, so what our old model has been, is that we would have nationals come in from the different placement countries, and then international applicants come in from the US. With COVID, we have learned a lot about what our national resources and what our sub-Saharan resources are, and we have tried to see how to be as strategic as possible, staying aligned with our mission and vision while leveraging our learnings and our resources and our personnel on the continent. With this new model, which we are rolling out for the first time, so that's really, really exciting for us. We will still have our operations based in Malawi, Rwanda, Uganda, and Zambia. However, we will have our international applicants coming from other countries in sub-Saharan Africa. So we are expanding our reach and having 9 additional countries to the countries of operation. Those 9 additional countries are indicated on your application. So if you are wondering why they are asking for your nationality when you are starting the application, that's the reason why, to make sure that you are guided to the country that you can apply to and the other countries that you can apply to outside of your country of operation. So our current countries, I shared that already, and our new countries are Tanzania, Ethiopia, Burundi, Liberia, Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and Zimbabwe. That is where our international applicants are going to be coming from. I know that some of you are from these countries and you're eager to hear what the difference is between the national and international. That will be talked about a little bit during this panel discussion, and you'll also get a chance to ask your questions during the Q&A at the end. All right, at this point, I will invite Christine, Hanif, and Juma to introduce yourselves. Please tell us your full name, the fellowship cohort that you are a part of, your position within the cohort, your placement organization, and what you are doing now. I will go in alphabetical order. So Christine, you're gonna go first.
Okay, yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Shimge. I am from Rwanda. I am a little baby alumni. I was part of the class of 2021, 2022. So literally the one that just finished their fellowship. And my position was Knowledge Management Officer at HDI in Rwanda. I'm so jealous that you guys will get to come from all sorts of different countries. We didn't get that option, so I'm very excited for you guys. And right now I work as an investment analyst with Angaza Capital. And basically my role is to basically push like our company to invest in more health tech solutions for the African continent.
I guess I'm the next one from HCH. Great. Hello, everyone. So my name is Hanif Munhal. I'm from Malawi. I was in the 2020-2021 cohort, the COVID cohort. Great. So I was working as a strategic information and evaluation officer for Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation right here in Malawi. Due to COVID for us, we never had this opportunity. Yeah, you guys have to travel and work outside the countries. Currently, I've just joined GHC. Yeah, so sort of like a double fellowship. So right now I'm working with GHC. Probably once we become fellows, then we'll be engaging more and more. So looking forward to engaging more with you. Thank you. Over to you, Juma.
That's really exciting, Hanif, and congratulations on joining GHC. Well, my name is Juma Omala. I am from Kenya, and I was in the 2017-18 fellowship class, and I was placed at Covenant House in New Jersey. Yeah, I was a health fellow there, so that was an exciting time. I think at that time we could still apply to go to the US, so I grabbed that opportunity. After that, I went on to pursue public health and another program in public policy as well in Canada. And then after that, I stayed on to take on a government position as a policy advisor for the government of Alberta. I also ran a community-based organization back home called Bold Step. It's like my baby, so I'm still running it, albeit remotely. So thank you for having me. Back to you, Ruth.
Thank you all. I promised you guys that you would see a demonstration of the success of the program, and I think that you can already tell that the people that you are speaking with or speaking to during this discussion are people who not only have the experience you have of applying on being on the other end, but have been through the system, have been through the program, have loved it enough, like Hanif, to join us and support you as you participate, are doing big things, setting up their own organizations, encouraging more money and more investment in the health space, moving the needle a little bit forward in terms of our digital expertise, our technical expertise, our people expertise. So these are an illustration of what it is that the goal of Global Health Corps is. When we when we talk about balancing it out and moving the needle for health equity, when we talk about people engagement and our focus on people resources, when we talk about leadership and leadership design, whether it is individual authentic leadership or collective leadership, this is just a taste of the community you could be joining. So I'm going to ask our panelists what inspired them to join the fellowship and what they think the benefits of the fellowship are for them personally or for a new applicant. So we can go in the same order that we did. Christine, why did you join GHC, and what inspired you to join? What do you think the benefit of the fellowship is?
Yeah, so huge advocate of honesty. So my path was a bit non-traditional to GHC in that I did not know about the organization, had never interacted about it before. I was just a little college student trying to find a way to get back to my home country of Rwanda and basically do something that was meaningful. So when I was recommended, like, hey, check out this fellowship, I looked very quickly at the website and everything, and I was like, oh, this works, right? I realized I didn't have a lot of experience in the workspace. I didn't have a lot of experience being a leader as an adult. I had done a bit of that through my business before school, but I didn't know how the world worked. So I was looking for a place that would sort of be formational for me, something that would allow me to at least, learn, be exposed to different sort of fields, different people. And at the very least, I was like, this is going to be my last requirement, is that it has to be an organization that's doing good for the world. And when I checked out GHC, ticked all the boxes. So I was like, okay, let me just apply. And it led me here. And I'll be honest, when I saw that question on the application, what led you to GHC? My first thought, which is to conjure up this huge story of I want to be a leader, I want to change the world. Yeah. And then through it all, I was like, no, this is a lie. This is not who I am. I have no huge interest in health at the time, but I'm willing to learn. I'm very curious. I'm very passionate to see how the world works. And I can sort of find a way to bridge my skill sets and experience with what the organization sort of wants and what these partner organizations want. And I was like, let me be honest. Let me put myself out there and make it happen. And I was selected. So thank you so much, Ruth. And as far as what the fellowship has been able to do for me, I mean, it was a lot. The benefits, even during the fellowship itself, as a person who was coming straight from college, I didn't know how to properly work in the professional space, right? I didn't know about office politics. I didn't know how to work with difficult people, difficult managers. All of it was very new. So having, GHC take the time to train me during the fellowship, to teach me how to navigate the situations, having them intervene if, something went all the way, to the left, and being able to know that I had that support through it all, gave me a lot of the confidence that I needed to be able to navigate the workspace and be able to qualify for the position that I have today. And I think really the last, the icing on the cake for me is that now I get to be an alumni. I'm plugged into the alumni network. And these are people who are all over the world. They're doing incredible things. And it's people who, the most resourceful, the most engaging, the most helpful people, literally, if you need anything, these people will get it done. And I'm so very grateful that I get to be a part of that community and know that I have that support going for me. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Christine. Okay, bringing the smoke. But I mean, Christine is a perfect example of the fact that you don't necessarily need to have a ton of experience. The focus of the program is early career professionals, and we are true to that. If you have a strong enough application, if you're able to communicate why and communicate the value add that you think that you can have for the organization that you're going to be joining and for GHC, that's an incredible step in the right direction for you to be an applicant. Hanif.
Thank you, Ruth. So for me, I would say that while I was still in college, actually before college way back, I really wanted to do something related to health. You know how we grow up wishing being doctors, dentists, and all that. But you know, at a certain point in time, life pushes you in a different direction. So I did economics. I'm coming from an economics background, trained in econometrics and research and all that. However, what really inspired more was, firstly, I saw the GHC posters and the like on social media, but I was like, you know, there are certain people who are intended for this. It's not none of my business. Until when my organization hired our M&D coordinator, who was a GHC fellow, Noria Katumbe. So it's when we started now engaging and talking about what is GHC. Then later on, when Noria left, our organization also hired the replacement of that was also a GHC fellow who was Daliso. And later, the person who was the previous coordinator joined GHC, who was Bernard. So you can see I was surrounded by 3 alums who were GHC fellows. And I was like, why is this organization so interested in hiring alums? So through engagement with all these 3 coordinators, that's what pushed me to apply for GHC. Of course, I didn't get it for the first time. So I had to apply again this day after a year gap, because I was frustrated. I'm a human being. So I took a 1-year break, then I tried again, then later on I got it. To say what really benefited me, I think there's a lot. I can highlight 10 of them, but for this session, I'll just make sure that I'll put maybe 2 or 3. So firstly, is the career growth. To be very frank, there is much career growth through the mentorship. I was coming from with a good experience in M&D, but I never had worked in any public health sector. So with the GHC, with my supervisor, as well as also from the support from the GHC offerings in terms of leadership designs, as well as also there's a PDF, we call it Professional Development Fund, which I was able to also utilize that. I was able to upgrade myself, not only in the M&D side, but also being exposed to other tools. For example, I'm also interested in data analytics, which my placement organization, my supervisor, allowed me not to be sitting in the M&D office, but rather to be working with the developers and the informatics guys. So which was a very strong career growth for me. And my supervisor was also able to give me to lead in different projects, which were big projects. And that was a very plus for me. And to show that that was really, really benefiting me, soon after GHC, I was also hired to lead as an M&D specialist for the 3 districts in Malawi, where I was working in family planning and maternal health. You can now see I'm getting into another dimensions of public health, from HIV and AIDS to family planning, something that I've never done in school. I'm an economist, but I was able to integrate into that, into another sector. This is all coming from the previous training that I had with the GHC, as well as also the fellowship program, how it helped me. So I would mention that these are 2. In addition to this, I would say the network. The network is really good. My current job in GHC was also through Aubrey, who tagged me on LinkedIn, was like, Hanif, I think you can apply for this. So actually, apart from that, I think I wouldn't have been joining GHC now. But yeah, now I'm with GHC, where I'm supporting the M&D activities for sub-Saharan African countries, as well as the US. So yeah, thanks to GHS for the wonderful career development. Over to you, Ruth.
Thanks, Hanif. And something really important about it, I know that some of you might be 2nd or 3rd time applicants. A lot of the times it can be really discouraging when you feel like I've applied, I put my best foot forward, it didn't meet the mark, or there wasn't alignment with the placement organization. But the benefit of GHC is, 1, we're really enthusiastic about applicants who come back, because that demonstrates to us the passion for the work that we do. And 2, we are always changing our roles. So the roles that you see up there are not going to be the same roles that you see next year, are not the same exact roles that were there before. So like Hanif said, in his experience, he had the first application, he saw from other people what was going on. And then he, he applied, it didn't really work out, and then he came back again. So that's an important thing to remember as you are thinking about your application, whether it's now or in the future. Jamal, over to you.
Thank you. And I think Hanif and Christina have said it also. I guess it's really difficult to come after them, but I really want to highlight a few things. Like Hanif said, like the network, some of the names he threw there, I know those people. So like it's a huge network of people that you can depend on. And again, as Ruth said, like if you applied once or twice and never got it, like never lose hope, just try again. As far as what inspired me to join the fellowship, I think I graduated in 2015, and then I was trying to look at what do I do now, like Christine said. It's a weird time when you've just graduated, you don't have a job, you're looking into something to go to. So I started with the yearly program. I think most of us are quite familiar with that. And that program just like, pumped me up to do something for my community. And from that fellowship, I like started my own organization. And then reality checks in, like, wow, zero experience in running an organization, like zero experience. So then I get this opportunity to go to Copenhagen to attend a Women Deliver conference, where I met a lot of other people who are really passionate about healthcare issues, health equity issues. And one guy from Rwanda, I'll never forget him, Claude Muhire. I know most of us from GHC are familiar with him. So we got talking with Claude, and he tells me that, oh, I've been in the US. I don't know how we arrived at that conversation, but he mentioned something about Yale University, and that he took a 2-week training in that university. So I'm like, yeah, I just started this organization. I think I'm interested to go to Yale. And he said, well, because you're really passionate about health issues, it's a whole 13-month program. So I think you can apply, check it out. So I go and check it out and look at the requirements, everything, the organizations that I'm supposed to apply to. And as a Kenyan at that time, I couldn't apply to countries in Africa, which was really sad. So thank you, Ruth. Thumbs up for expanding this to other countries in the continent. So applying to the US was really competitive because everyone else from Africa applies there. And we were really jealous of people like Hanif and Christine, who gets to work in their home countries and then kind of stay back or be absorbed in that organization. So that's how, like, oh, I'm back, right? So that's how I got to know GHC really and to apply. And then the rest, as they say, is history. Of course, a lot happened during that year. So as far as the benefits, it's too much. Like, just like my co-speakers have said, like, it's a lot of good things during the fellowship. And I see some of those programs are still there. So for example, Amplify, it's a platform where you get to contribute your thoughts and ideas about, healthcare issues that you care about, be it, like, there's no limit really. You could, talk about poverty, talk about anything, and people in the community would contribute and give you feedback. And I think there's one-on-one coaching from GHC as well to improve your writing skills. So I really did take advantage of that. And up to now, I still write articles. I just don't know where to to post them, because that platform was really good to get your thoughts out there. So that's one. Two, like I said, I started an organization and I wanted to advocate for sexual and reproductive health rights for women and youth, and I didn't know how. So while in this fellowship, we got to participate in various advocacy activities at Capitol Hill. Can you believe that? So we were like, we were talking to those senators and city councilors about, issues within the community, about issues I never even thought in my wildest dreams I could, advocate for. Issues like, sexual and reproductive health and gay rights and such stuff. And it just gave me another perspective because I've never in my life interacted with even gay people before. And while in the US, I was, working with them like every day. So I had to learn how to navigate such kinds of issues. And then mentorship, like once you get into the fellowship, you are paired with someone who has been in your shoes formally, but also you can take advantage of the network to connect with people who have a skill that you want to develop informally, you see. So like, there's a lot of opportunities and I couldn't talk about all of them, but the one that stands out for me most is networking. You get to meet the most brightest people, people who have a ton of experience in terms of what they do. And it doesn't matter which field you're coming from. It doesn't matter which country, like it's just mind blowing. I remember that time I got to live with two girls, one from Kenya and another from the US. And we still have a WhatsApp group to date. In fact, this year in August, we met in Montreal. So all of us flew all the way to just meet and like have a good time and, talk about the GHC experience. So that was really good. And it's really great to still maintain such connections. There's a lot more. In fact, when I came from the US, immediately in that week, we had a 1 or 2 week vacation in Tanzania, the whole fellowship class. Ruth, you were there, so you know what I'm talking about. So when I went back home, I already had 2 interviews lined up, and these were connections from the GHC class, you see. I ended up not getting any of them, but just to get into the interview stage, from a recommendation within the network it speaks a lot about the community. So I could talk and talk, but I think I would stop there and back to you, Ruth.
Thank you so much, Juma. Juma, those articles can still be put on Amplify. We publish alums as well as fellows. So we want to see those pieces of writing, please. Juma talked about Amplify, which again, amazing platform. Not only do we encourage you and provide avenues for you to be able to learn how to write opinion editorials or different think pieces on health, on social justice, on relationships within the cohort, you have the benefit of somebody with expertise. So we have our communications team where our editor-in-chief of Amplify sits, and we have our team walk you through the process and refine that skill set. And in addition to the mentorship that Juma talked about, we have specifically about that, we have alumni mentors. So the community that we're talking about, we have this community that is willing and able and intentional about providing support through the course of the fellowship. So, for the first 9 months, you're partnered with one alum, and for the next 9 months. So even as you graduate, even as you transition into being an alumni, we still support you. We still provide the development funds. We still provide, structured learning opportunities, etc. So that doesn't end just at the point that the fellowship stops. In fact, I think that there are a lot more benefits during the course of your being an alum than you would ever get in just the 13 months of being a fellow. So there's a lot to look forward to even beyond the fellowship experience. And yes, the touch points are fantastic. What Juma was talking about at the end of the placement, and as we're wrapping up, or even during the course of the fellowship, there are multiple touch points where you get to meet people. So it's not just walk. We are a community that likes to say that it doesn't take serious people to do serious work. So the work is serious, the people not so much. We like to have fun.
Actually,
all right,
before we move on from that, very quickly,
all right.
I'd like to add on that. And I think one of the biggest things that GHC did for me is that it gave me the opportunity to be taken seriously. And, I was, once again, last year, I was like a kid just coming straight from college, not a lot of experience, not really knowing a ton about the health systems, but, to be able to be in a position, simply because I was coming as a GHC fellow, and being trusted with real responsibilities, real projects, right? It gave me a lot of confidence, to walk into rooms and make things happen. And I think as Juma was talking about it, I remembered that my cohort, because, every group has to make a project, together. In our cohort, we worked on the mental health. We did a bit of a project on mental health. And the people were able to invite, we had people like the minister, we had a lot of really important people in the country. And to see that those people would sit down and listen to what we had to say was a huge confidence booster that I think it's something that has personally followed me, that even in the job where I'm at, I don't feel a lot of, the shyness that you would get if you're doing a job for the first time, because, I'm used to being taken seriously. I'm used to taking on projects of importance. So for everybody that's looking to apply, I think especially if you're new in your career like me, it's going to work wonders for you. It really is something that changes your mentality and the way you approach work when you're in a situation where everybody that is kind of around you thinks you have something important to contribute.
Thank you so much for that, Christine. All right, so we want to leave 15 minutes at the end for questions. I see a question, I see a statement in here where somebody says, I wish this came before the application deadline. The application deadline has not come yet. We still have applications open for about a month, so you have until somewhere towards the middle of July, January, to apply. There's still a lot of time to apply. All right, so going to the next section, we're going to be just top line, because a lot of this information can be found on the website, but we're going to give you a little snippet about what the personal experiences are. So Juma, could you tell us a little bit about eligibility or qualifications for the fellowship?
So thank you, Ruth, again. I think before I embark at any opportunity, I look at, am I really qualified? Because you might be wasting your time, And for this one, key things, of course, this information is up in the website, but you have to be 30 years or younger, because GHC believes that's the time you could really define your career path, so to speak, because past that, I think you already have a clear goal of what you want to contribute, your contributions to be. And then, first of all, you have to meet all the criteria, because like I said, you'll be wasting your time. So one of them is age, 30 years or younger. And then number two, you have to have a bachelor's degree. You might not have necessarily graduated, but you've completed your coursework by, I think it starts in June. So by June, you should have completed your coursework, even though you might be waiting to graduate. If you have graduated, well and good. And then it goes without saying, you have to be proficient in English. And then you have to be a citizen or a permanent resident of the countries listed. Like there's many new countries listed now, and I'm glad Kenya is part of that. Ghana, Nigeria, and the rest. So, I mean, you have to prove that you're a resident, not really a resident, but a citizen or permanent resident of one of those countries. So we didn't have that before, so I just kudos to GHC for doing that for the continent. I can't stress that enough, because when you go to the US, you have, when you finish, you have to come back and again, you know, start making connections, and it's like you lost touch. But this time we stay back home, which is cool. And then just something else that we've highlighted throughout is just the passion to develop your career, not really necessarily in the global health space, really any like, what do you call it? Career profession, really. Like you see some people are in business, HR, you know, some people are into tech, logistics, whatever. Like everyone is welcome as long as you can really articulate how you hope to contribute in the space with your current profession. And it's okay to change later on, because I think one of the things the fellowship helps you with is to think about how your contributions will be. And then there's leadership skills that GHC has defined for the organization and the people coming in. So I'd encourage you to take some time, go through the website, look at these leadership skills. I still remember all of them off the top of my head, because it really helped me, you know, even in my interviews afterwards, you know, just like having learned through them and internalized them and saw how, you know, they align with where I was at that point, it really resonated with me. So those are the things Ruth and her team will be looking at during interviews. And it doesn't have to be like, you know, you have to just show or demonstrate how your experiences so far, you know, align with those leadership qualities that they're looking at. So I think that's all from me, Ruth.
Yes, yes. I see a question about graduating in May 2023. Just clarifying with regards to the graduation, we would need confirmation that you have completed before you attend. So like right now, if you are on the path to completing, but you're going to have graduated and by the time you start. So right now you don't have to have graduated, but by the time you start, you should have. Just clarifying that. I will go over to
Sorry,
Hanif
just
really quick.
one more thing. Yeah, really quickly. Committed to learning. That's one thing. Like you have to be able to step outside your comfort zone, because some of us from Kenya or Ghana or Zimbabwe will be moving to another country, and that comes with other challenges. And you should be able to challenge yourself, adapt and innovate, and be able to really get into the system. And you know, it will transform your life if you are able to adapt and learn. So thank you.
Thanks, Juma. So Hanif and Christine, you're next. Hanif, in a minute, please let us know how the application process works.
Great. Thank you so much, Ruth. So in terms of the application process, first of all, let me highlight that the whole application is done on GHC portal. So there's nothing like an email address where you can send your CVs and your certificates. Everything is on the GHC website. So once you go there, you'll be able to be directed to the necessary platform to start filling your information. So the first part of the application is whereby you need to fill in your bio information, as well as also to respond to some short and long essay questions. Probably there are 4 questions, which Christina will explain more about that. But know that you need, by this time, you need to have a very strong CV. Your CV should be responding to the roles that you're applying to. I know some of us, we have those master CVs where we send, you know, whenever the uncle says, send me your CV, I have a friend, we throw those around, okay? Make sure this time those CVs are very strong, they are really responding to the advertised roles or the roles that you are picking. So you have up to 3 roles to select in your application. Secondly, make sure that you have a recommendation letter or somebody to recommend for you. I believe there should be 2 recommendations. So these can be the people that you have worked for. Let's say your supervisor can recommend for you. If you're just coming from school, then probably your supervisor, your lecturer can recommend for you. The recommendation should be about how adaptable, you know, once from what Juma has explained, the GHC values. Are you adaptable? Are you somebody we can really trust as a leader? Do you have those qualities? How do you live with other people? How do you handle serious situations or maybe tough times? So all those should be the ones recommended. I mean, should be the ones that will be highlighted in your recommendation letter. So that's the first part of the application. So once you're done filling up all those, then you can click submit. Then those will be submitted and the GHC will be reviewing those applications. So probably in February, March, those applications are reviewed by the GHC community and you receive an email inviting you for the semi-final interviews, or otherwise they will be that sorry and we have moved on. So yeah, expect the 2 as a leader, we need to be adaptable and very strong and resilient to that. So probably once you receive the semi-final emails, then you'll be called for semi-final interviews. Now, this interview, you'll be interviewed by the GHC community. So let me highlight to the same that this time you'll be asked about your leadership qualities, about GHC values. So all that you wrote in your essay, you will be tested here. Know that if you'll be lying in your essay, writing things that you don't know, then this is the time where you'll be caught at this time, because we have experienced reviewers, people who know if you're lying or not. And if you are just copying and paste from previous applicants, here is where you'll be caught red-handed actually. Right, so after the semi-final interviews, then you're also going to receive an email inviting you to the final interviews. So let me highlight now here, you need to be very attentive on this part. So on the last part, on the final interviews, in case whereby, because this time you have the liberty to pick up to 3 roles. So the semi-final interviews, definitely you're going to have 1 interview probably, or maybe 2. However, on the final interviews, if all the 3 organizations have offered you or maybe have invited you for interview, it means you go for 3 interviews, right? Let's say you applied for M&D officer at Partners in Healthy. At the same time, you applied for mobilization officer at Riders for Healthy. It means you are going to have 3 interviews, right? At this interview, you need to prepare this interview or take it as any other job interviews. So if you're an M&D person, if this organization would like to ask you about M&D, then they can go for oral interviews. Or if you have claimed that you know how to use Excel, this is the time where they will test your Excel skills. This is beyond GHC because this is now you're dealing with your placement organization. So these will test you to see if you are fit for that role and the job description that they advertise. Once you're done with this, now this is where you're going to receive your offer letter from these organizations. Then it's up to you to accept or reject. So for example, if you can be successful in all the 3 roles, then definitely you can receive 3 offer letters and you can pick 1. Or maybe if you are only picked for 1 role, then you have been successful, then definitely you'll be picked from there. So after that is when now GHC welcomes you on board. And yeah, probably you might be flying to Rwanda. Don't worry, GHC will process the air ticket and everything for you. And yeah, you'll be joining a very amazing team and your journey for GHC starts from there. So you're just 1 step closer to that. Thank you. I hope I've taken my time enough. Over to you.
You did a good job, Hanif. There is a lot to say. Christine, there is a lot to say about what I'm going to ask you as well. I'm going to ask you to summarize how to craft a winning application or how best to answer the GHC application questions. I'm sure there'll be follow-up questions about that, so we'll probably just segue to the Q&A right after Christine. Just a note, we have gone into our Q&A time, so I'm going to stay on an extra 10 minutes to answer any questions. The panelists, if you would like to stay on, you're welcome to, but I know that we committed to the top of the hour, so if you have to go, that's fine. So Christine, over to you.
Yeah, so I have just 5 tips for everybody that's on here. And the first one is, whatever question you're answering, just be very, very sure to do your research and match your experience and interest to whatever organization that you're applying to, right? You know, like there is the GHC website, you have us, the alumni, you know, like all these different organizations. Please do your research. If you're applying to GHC, like look at what values GHC cares about. You know, like what is it that matters to GHC? Is it authentic leadership? Is it, you know, I'm not trying to give away the secrets here, but you know, you look at the website and look at, you know, like what values are important, what is GHC advertising itself to be, and all the partner organizations that you're trying to work with, what do they care about? What are they looking for in that particular role? And then instead of just, you know, writing your questions in or like rerouting your CV or resume to be like, oh my God, look at how great of a person I am. Do that through the lens of, yes, I am a great person, but look at how everything I've done, look at how my skills, look at how my interests match whatever it is that you're looking for, right? So at the end of the day, yes, you're a great person. Yes, we want to hear about you, but remember, this is about assessing if you're a good fit for the program, if you're a good fit for the organizations. So do your research and make sure to match whatever it is, with the organizations and GHC. Second thing, show passion, show curiosity, show interest. Nobody likes a bore. Like remember, before you even get to the interview phase, you will have to go through like a list. Like there was going to be a lot of people reviewing your applications. It's going to be written. Now imagine a reviewer has read 100 of essays, and now you come in, you're really dry. We don't really know if you actually want this. We can't tell your passion. We can't tell anything. So throughout your application, just make sure to show that excitement that you have about the fellowship. Like, you know, like if there's things you're particularly excited about, if there are things, you know, just put them in there. Let us know that you really, really want this. Let us see your curiosity. Let us see your shine. Third thing, recommendations, right? Have it done by someone who knows you very well. I know when it comes to recommendations, we can all think of, you know, like, oh, well, it has to be, you know, my direct supervisor. It has to be, you know, this particular person because they're important. But at the end of the day, that person cannot speak very well to your abilities. They haven't seen your work. They haven't seen you go through difficult things. That person is maybe not the right person to write your recommendation, right? So find a person who has been with you for a while. Find a person who knows you as a leader, who can speak to your leadership qualities. Find a person who likes you. I've seen a couple of recommendations where I was like, does this recommender actually want you to get the position? So find someone who likes you and who knows you really well, and make sure that they know about the fellowship so that they can try to like route their recommendation according to like the fellowship and what we're about, okay? So that's very important. Fourth thing, writing, right? Your applications will have to go through a series of people who are going to review your answers to the 4 questions, right? It's going to be, listen, these people are going to review a lot of applications in a very short amount of time, right? It doesn't help if your application has a lot of typos, if it has a lot of broken English, if it has, you know, things that do not make sense. So my advice to you is make sure you're writing these essays early, and you know what? Read them a couple of times to yourselves, read them out loud, have your friends read them, you know, let people correct you. Just try to iterate, make sure. Last time I checked, it was like 250 words. Is it still 250 words? I think so, like per essay. But make sure those 250 words count and that you're telling a cohesive story and that makes sense, right? Pay attention to those details, like write a really compelling story in everything you're writing. 200. Thank you, Jacqueline. I see you in the chat. But like do everything you can to tell like a really compelling story throughout your essay answers. Nobody likes something general. Make sure you're as specific as possible. Make sure you're linking it to the interest once again, and make sure, my God, just check for random errors, okay? It doesn't scream professionalism if the first thing I'm reading are a couple of typos, right? Especially if we're considering you for these important positions, it matters that you're paying attention to detail. It matters that you're doing this right. Fifth thing, if you pass the essay part and you get selected for interviews, congrats. And what I'll tell you once you're there, put your best foot forward. Absolutely. You know, talk about how incredible you've been and all these wonderful things you've done. But please remember to be human, right? Show up authentically. Like, let people see you through like the flaws you've been through, the whatever. Have you failed before? Are you a human? Like, are you just showing up as a robot, right? So, you know, tell your story, find the best way to craft it, link it to what people are looking for at those organizations. But at the end of the day, show up humanely. Don't make up some huge random story nobody would believe. And I think you'll be successful. Those are my 5 tips.
Fantastic. There's somebody speaking. Okay. I'm going to quickly run through the questions in the chat, bullet point style, and then we can get people turning on their video and unmuting to ask questions if you want to do so, or type additional ones in the chat for the panelists. So getting a reference from someone who is also a GHC applicant, can it compromise your situation? If the person is applying to the same role, yes, but there is no restriction about who can be your reference in that respect. I mean, like if your boss and you are both applying for the GHC fellowship, then it stands to reason that you would likely need to tap them to say, okay, I need your input in this. But, you know, to what Christine said, get someone who likes you, who wants you to win, because it's not about who's the most important person. We can have somebody getting a reference from a minister and they don't really say anything to bolster their recommendation, and it won't really count for anything. If I graduate in May 2023, but the earliest graduation date is 2022. Okay, Maron, I think we'll have to troubleshoot. Please send an email to our help desk. My colleague is going to put the email address in the chat. What made you strong along the way? That's going to be a question for the panelists, so hold on to that one. Does having mid-level experience in the health sector give the applicant an advantage, say 5 years worth? It could, depending on which role you're applying to and which organization you're applying to. So the structure of the application process here is you are applying for a fellowship role with every piece of information coming to GHC. So we'll read your essays, we will look at your CVs, etc. But you have to make sure that your application is aligned to that role. So they are very specific role requirements. Those are not arbitrary, they're not a suggestion. That is the criteria that we're looking at to eliminate people. So make sure that you are applying with that in mind. What kind of recommendation do we need to strengthen an application? A recommendation that speaks to your strengths, that speaks to your leadership potential, that speaks to your curiosity, your desire to learn, your passion for health and social justice. That's a good recommendation. What about those who are doing master's programs? You can join if you're on a master's program, as long as you can commit to being in person and being engaged at your placement organization during the time you're there. It doesn't disqualify you. The last speaker, could you clarify on the experience part? I think that was you, Juma. I'll come back to that one. Say you graduated with another course and you want to do something different at GHC or venturing. Is it allowed? I wouldn't say it's allowed or not allowed. Again, you have to very specifically respond to each individual role. So yes, you're applying to GHC as a fellow, but those roles are very specific. So think about them as like the way you would have specialties, right? Some of you went to university, you did a course like business, but you specialized in corporate finance. That's the way it is. You might be all of the under the umbrella of the fellowship, but you still have those different specialties and you have to pay attention to the role you're applying to. Some roles, if not most, require 1 to 2 years of experience in that particular field. That's true. Let's see. Is the recommendation letter attached alongside the CV? So the recommendation process is separate. Your recommender would have to fill out something separately from you and submit themselves. So it's not attached in tandem. Can GHC accept my application and the placement organization reject me? Hanif talked about the application process. So it's a multi-step process. There is no one or the other. GHC and the placement organization are working together. So at every step of the process, you have to succeed to get to the next step. And there is no point at which GHC says yes and the placement organization says no, or vice versa, because, you know, kind of think about like interviewing. You apply to an organization, they invite you for a screening call perhaps, and then you pass a screening call, you go to the next step and the next step and the next step. So there is no point at which one or the other disqualifies you arbitrarily. My question goes to one of the panelists. From your experience, would you recommend applying for more than one role? Okay, I think that will go to the panelists now. There are a lot of questions coming in. Thank you for staying on a little late. If you need to jump off, please do, but I appreciate you staying on. So we'll start with a question that was going to Juma. Somebody was asking you to elaborate on what you said about experience.
I don't know in what context, but I would talk about like the experience you need to apply for the fellowship. You know, most of us volunteer their time and effort and skills, and they don't really consider that as experience. I would say that's very much the experience, the type of experience you would need. You'll just have to package it to tailor it to the needs of the host organizations that you are applying to. So it doesn't have to be a paid role for like 1 or 2 years. I think I volunteered a lot of my time when I was in my undergrad, and I was able to leverage on those two and then package them to fit the needs of the host organization. And it wasn't that because we were working with people experiencing homelessness. In Nairobi, we do have that, but the issue is different, you know? So it's just a matter of you explaining how you also hope to gain in that role and what you also bring to the table. So that notion of like it has to be a paid role, I don't think so. It's just the passion, the work you've done, and what you hope to do afterwards, and that how that role will help you. Yeah. The other question I forgot, Ruth. I think there were two.
No, that's it for now. Thank you, Juma. We will go into a number of questions coming in.
And Ruth, I have to jump off, sorry.
Yes. Thank you, Juma. Thank you for your time. Really, really appreciate you coming in and supporting us in this way. If you would like to stay connected, you can share that information. Otherwise, thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight and sharing your experience with us.
No problem. Thank you so much.
All right, then. Can you apply to more than one role to maximize your chances? Yes, I think Christine talked about that. We're supposed to consult the organization we apply for. No, just go through the application and it will move through it if you are successful. So you don't need to reach out in any way outside of the application process. All right. Can you use a GHC alumni as your reference? Yes. Some of these I'm going to send to the panelists. Christine, do we send different CVs for each role? And she can also ask the one of, is there a chance for a fresh graduate who has never worked before? I think she talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think no. I think it's the same CV, right? That goes through everything.
I mean, it depends. So you had talked about it a little bit. If you're applying to a role and there are specific things that they would want you to highlight in the role, for instance, if you have experience in both IT and business, the roles are not going to look exactly the same. The role descriptions, what they require. And so as with every application, you're kind of playing up certain aspects of your experience in one application to have that alignment in one area and playing up something else. So I have a lot of different experiences in my resume. Every job has been a career switch for me. So depending on what I'm applying to, I would probably, I have a business background, I have a legal background, I have a curriculum design and leadership training background. So if I am applying to something that's business related, I'm going to talk about finance, I'm going to talk about my business background. It's not necessarily a different resume, but how you position yourself with it. And yes, Christine is an example of somebody who came out of college, nice and fresh.
And actually,
yes, please.
Yeah, on the experience thing, I think like the job that I ended up with, right? It required like 2-3 years of experience in knowledge management. But here's a nifty little thing I've learned about experience is that a lot, like I think it's more important to look at like the job, like actual like the specifics, like the everyday, like the skill sets you need than just looking like, oh, this many years of experience, right? Because I realized that even though I had never worked in knowledge management ever before, I had worked like in strategy in business before. I had worked in advertising, and that gave me a lot of skills as far as it concerned, like, team building, organizational, how do you even call it, like organizational leadership and things like that. And that played a huge role into like giving me way more credit for this role that I'd never done than just, saying like, oh, I don't have the required number of years. So I think my one tip for as far as experience is concerned, as far as like your years are concerned, I think just one rule of thumb: never disqualify yourself. Really, like if you're like really passionate about something, don't disqualify yourself. There is a committee of people whose job is to do that. So like, why do their job for them? You know what I mean? Like, just go ahead. If you really want something to happen, like talk up your skills, talk about how you're a great fit for this, show how you have transferable skill sets for this, and let people decide. It's very much what I've learned is that like the what is it? The JDs, like job description, I've learned it's more of a wish list than like the end of the world. So don't disqualify yourself. If there's like one little thing you don't really qualify for, just give yourself a shot and see how it goes.
Yeah, great. That's perfect. I see Hanif answering questions in here. Christine, feel free to do so as well if you have answers to the questions that are coming in. I see a lot of questions related to the number of roles to apply for. You are not mandated to apply for more than one. You are not. Some people have successfully, in fact, a lot of people have successfully applied and gotten into the program applying to just one. So you don't have to. What we encourage more than the number of applications is the alignment. So you don't want to apply for anything where you are so completely misaligned with the requirements of the role. You want to make sure that you are applying and you can do that job and your resume speaks to it, your experience speaks to it, or your educational background speaks to it. In terms of the recommenders, you don't need to have a different recommender if you are applying to different roles, unless they're radically different and one recommender can only speak to your experience in one role and not the other. Let's see. It's not mandatory to have published. If they are, let's see, can we submit CVs for each and every role we apply to? And you want to just make your CV as comprehensive as possible to speak to your experience extensively. So be clear, have a CV that speaks to successes more than just information. So, you know, information is, I write a report every week. That's information, which is great, but it's not necessarily the most strategic information to have. Something strategic to put on your resume is what that report does. So I write a report every week that feeds into X, that increases X percentage for the organization, that allows for more something. You want to speak to deliverables more than just information, and that's going to be the differentiator for you. All right, let's look at the bottom. Okay, yes, for the most part, a lot of the rest of the information can be answered in the frequently asked. If you are a dual citizen, you can apply. If you have citizenship in one of our countries of citizenship or permanent residence in one of our countries of operation, which is Malawi, Rwanda, Uganda, Zambia, or one of the countries where we are going to have international applicants, which is Tanzania, Ethiopia, Burundi, Liberia, Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and Zimbabwe. Again, this information and more can be found on the frequently asked page or within the application itself. All right, so we are at 11 after the hour, which is the timestamp that we had more or less said to extend. I think the links are all in the chat for the frequently asked questions, the benefits, and the email is the email is in the chat as well. So please check out the links with the frequently asked questions, the benefits package. Check out the apply link so that you can see the roles that you qualify for. And if you have a question that is coming up for you that's not covered in the frequently asked questions, you can just go to apply info and be able to get that question answered. All right, thank you so much, Christine. Thank you so much, Hanif. Thank you, Mwape in the background, who has been supporting us with the links and other resources. Really, really excited for your applications. Looking forward to reading them. And we should be able to share our recording on our YouTube page. More information on that will come your way. Thank you so much to our panelists and to everybody who attended and engaged and asked questions. It's an exciting time. There is so much in store for you. And this is an incredible, incredible community that you're going to be joining. So please be encouraged to refine your application and be potentially one of the 2 to 3% who join the Global Health Core community. Christine and Hanif, any final words?
Nothing from me. All the best. It's already incredible that you're here. We're looking forward to reading your applications. All the very best. You guys are going to make it. I'm very excited for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All the best to everyone. And please, you can reach out to more alums on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Just search for Global Health Corps alums. You find a lot of them. Nobody charges you to help you. We don't receive any money, so there's nobody.
That's a good one.
However, make sure that you have already checked some information on the website before you ask. Some of the things are very obvious. They're there on the website. So if you really, really needed to be a GHC fellow, be somebody who is able to look for information, be curious enough, go on the website, read all the FQAs Go through them. Then you can talk about how now somebody can really support you or maybe clarify some of this information. However, I'm wishing you all the best. Please push yourself. Nobody is going to do that for you. All the best. Thank you.
All right. Take care. And Christine has shared her information. The information of how to contact us is on our website as well. So please check that out. Have a good rest of your evening.
You too, man. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the time and information.
All right. Thank you all. And happy applying.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.